Okay, July's over, I'll start uploading again. Sonic Frontiers. I've talked about the Ancients in the End a lot on this channel, and you all seem to really like it when I do that, so we're gonna keep doing it. This time I want to focus more extensively on the Ancients after sealing the End, though. While we have a decent chunk of knowledge about what the Ancients did leading up to the sealing of the End, their actions afterwards are mostly a mystery. Or are they? Because in truth, we actually do have evidence for everything that's happened leading up to them becoming the Chao as well. Not in more recent pieces of media, though, but actually in the older titles of the series, even including Sonic 1. Yeah, that's right, bitches. I'm off my meds. Time for batshit Sonic Theory number 5. Let's do this. Since Update 3 is on the horizon, well, actually, real quick, for any of you here who don't want the most vague spoiler for Update 3 anyone could possibly give you, just skip the next 30 seconds of the video and you should be okay. We might be getting new lore about the Ancients. So with that in mind, I want to give one last crack at the Ancient story before it potentially confirms, or more likely deconfirms, my theory. So let's begin. I've already talked about how the Ancients created the Gaia Temples in preparation for a possible future encounter with Dark Gaia, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. There are several more structures that the Ancients likely built. For example, one structure that the Ancients most certainly built is Sky Sanctuary. It's a massive floating structure on an island that uses chaos energy to stay afloat. All of that just screams the Ancients. Not to mention, there's literally a broken cyberspace gate in the sanctuary as well. So unless the Echidna tribe somehow went to the Starfall Islands and got one just to leave it in a closed-off room, which they didn't, then the Ancients are the best candidate for the species that built Sky Sanctuary. We've already guessed this before, but I'm bringing it up again because Sky Sanctuary being a creation of the Ancients is actually an incredibly important detail. This is because Sky Sanctuary is one of the few stages that translates between the classic and modern games, meaning we can actually use Sky Sanctuary to compare classic structures to the Ancients' technology, as well as modern structures. Awesome. So what are some other structures that follow the way Sky Sanctuary is built? Well, ready yourselves, dear viewers, because the answer is damn near all of them. Okay, well that's a bit of an exaggeration. The best place to start is Angel Island, since that's the place the Ancients colonized first. Luckily, there's a whole game dedicated to exploring Angel Island, so we have plenty of places to look at. So first off, Hydro City, I don't really know how to pronounce it. Theseus' amazing and exciting water park here follows Sky Sanctuary's design pretty well. It has a brick-like structure, and the general layout is also really similar. They also both have thin tube-like structures that Sonic has to jump on to traverse through the area. Hydrocity is also especially similar to another area in the classic Sonic series, Labyrinth Zone. We'll go into more detail on Labyrinth Zone in a second, but right now we can also confirm that it was built by the Ancients. It goes without saying that Marble Garden is definitely also a structure that was created by the Ancients. It follows the structure of Sky Sanctuary even more than Hydrocity does. Not only that, but it confirms two other areas to be the origin of the Ancients. Marble Zone from Sonic 1, obviously, and Aquatic Ruin from Sonic 2. Carnival Night is our first outlier here. It's more likely a structure that was built by Eggman than the Ancients. The only structure we see that is even remotely similar to this is the fucking pinball minigame on Chaos Island, but that is at least textured like the Ancients' buildings. This also means Casino Night Zone from Sonic 2 was probably built by Eggman. Then again, it does have a lot of references to Sonic and Tails, so it probably wasn't built by him. So maybe it was built by the Ancients? Then again, how the hell do they know about Sonic and Tails? Yeah, Casino Night is weird. But Carnival Night was most definitely built by Eggman because of how torturous it is. Launch Base Zone was definitely built by Eggman because, come on, same for Flying Battery Zone. The next one is Sandopolis. Sandopolis is really interesting. While the outside of the area is nothing too special, and yes, it was also built by the Ancients, the actual Desert Temple is a lot more complicated. By the way, the Guardian of the Desert Temple may not actually have been built by Eggman. I could definitely see it being a construct the Ancients made to keep the structure safe. The inside of the Desert Temple at first glance seems pretty normal, but things get weird really fast. And no, I'm not talking about the spooky evil spirits inside. If you look closely in the background, you can see a mural on the walls. This mural changes everything, because on it we can see a humanoid figure standing next to a bird-like figure. This mural could only be made possible if humans and animals existed at the same time as the Ancients did. This mural is also on Angel Island, which was one of the first places the Ancients colonized after the Starfall Islands, meaning it was made pretty early in the Ancients' time on Earth as well. So this means that at one point, the Ancients and humans were aware of each other. Finally, we have Lava Reef Zone. I actually think that Lava Reef Zone is a mix of both a temple that was built by the Ancients and Eggman's technology. This would make sense, considering that this is where Eggman initially crashed into after Sonic 2, and was probably the first place he started building on. While the structures here are pretty similar to that of the early Ancients, the pipes and flamethrowers in the area are much more similar to Eggman's design. Finally, we have the mural at the end. It's pretty cool. Anyways, that's all for Angel Island, but there's a couple more areas in the games I want to talk about. First is Labyrinth Zone. We already confirmed that it was created by the Ancients, but there's another important aspect of both it and Hydrocity Zone. There are engravings in the walls of animal-like beings. In Labyrinth Zone, we have what looks like some kind of squid, a boar, and an owl. This owl in particular is actually pretty important because there are totems of it on Green Hill Zone, and even more engravings on it in particular in Hydrocity Zone. So, Longclaw confirmed? Well, no. I hope not, at least. Instead, I think that these engravings are actually depictions of gods from the Ancients' homeworld. This isn't the first time we see depictions of their gods like this either. Look on the Starfall Islands. One of the most common statues you'll find is of a being with a triangular head. If you look at it a bit more closely, you'll see that it's actually a statue of Giganto. Why is Giganto so important, though? Not only are there statues of this titan everywhere, but the base enemies, as well as the ninja variant of enemies, seems to be based on their design. This is because I think Giganto is actually modeled after a god from the Ancients' home. Look at Giganto's design closely. They're bipedal and have a roughly humanoid shape until you get to the hands. Giganto has 3 fingers on each hand, 2 of them are long and 1 of them is much shorter. Most of Giganto's body is clearly designed in the image of the Ancients' bodies. This starts to change when you get to the neck though. Giganto's neck is long and stretches out, ending with a large mouth. While at first this seems odd, if you look closely it actually resembles Perfect Chaos. The long neck leading up to the enormous jaws with lots of teeth. If you still don't believe me, look at the top of Giganto's head. The vault that they store the Purple Chaos Emerald on is placed exactly where Perfect Chaos's horn is that contains his brain. The only difference is that Giganto has a sick beard. So on the Ancients' homeworld, there is likely a god, or some leader that was much bigger than them, and resembles both them and Perfect Chaos. It's safe to say that the 3 animal engravings that we see in Labyrinth Zone are also mystical beings on the Ancients' homeworld. And now they're all dead. Spring Yard Zone was probably built by Eggman, and I can imagine Starlight Zone as a city that was built by the animals living on South Island, since it doesn't fit the designs of Eggman or of the Ancients. Unsurprisingly, there's nothing in Sonic CD that could have possibly been built by the Ancients. This makes sense considering how mysterious and hard to get to Little Planet is. It may not have even been around the Earth when the Ancients were still alive. Sonic 2 doesn't really have much to it either, but this game seems to be more related to Eggman's creations than the structures of the Ancients. There is one though. Hidden Palace Zone is likely one touch that the Ancients made to West Side Island. With all of the crystal architecture, there's not a lot of argument here. Side note, visually speaking, Hidden Palace Zone is definitely my favorite classic Sonic area. I mean, just look at it. It's so fucking cool. Now, what do all of these areas have in common? That's right, they're all in the classic areas of the world, and since we know 2 worlds isn't canon anymore, that can only mean one thing. The Ancients' colonization affected mainly the animal-inhabited parts of the world. They didn't branch out into more human-controlled territory until they started building Gaia temples, meaning that those temples were actually the last things the Ancients ever created. I hope this video provides some insight about the ancient structures. I'm also curious to see if we can find anything similar to the ancient structures in Sonic Superstars, because it's said to take place on the North Star Island. I would say we'll probably see at least something related to them, because this game is heavily related to the Chaos Emeralds and their individual abilities, just like the Ancient Studies. Also, sorry I didn't talk about the mural near the Emerald Altar. I was going to, but I'm saving that for a later video. You will see it though, don't worry.